What is up, y'all? Today we are going to go over my shoulder and arms day from yesterday. We're going to look at all of the workouts and kind of just do a review and see how we did and go over my reasoning for doing them. So my leg, abdomen area has been in pain, my lower right area, so hopefully it has nothing to do with my appendix, but I've been avoiding leg day for the past couple days just because of that. So we opted for a shoulder and arm day just to keep it light and simple. I actually ended up doing the machine here instead of a normal dumbbell press, which is what I would typically do for a shoulder pushing movement, but I like this machine. It felt pretty smooth. If anything, the handles feel like they're a little bit in front of you, and I did try doing the handles, holding them on the other bar, but that didn't feel comfortable. This was the best positioning for me, so it wasn't bad. I do like the shoulder press with the dumbbells, but I can get used to this. And I believe we do 2 working sets here. This was our second warm-up. This is our first working set, and I think we do a back off set after those first 2 working sets as well. With it being a new machine, I was trying to figure out the sweet spot. Typically, I try to aim for failing between 6 and 12 reps for my working sets. I might do more than that here, but you know, when you're doing a new machine, you don't know exactly how you're going to go. You don't know exactly how it's going to go when you're doing your sets there. So this was a trial run for me. When I'm doing this movement, I do like to set the seat at a height where I can bring the bars down right to my shoulders and it doesn't stop short. As you can see here, when we end up putting the bars down, they're about shoulder height. If anything, you could probably put the seat even higher, maybe 1 or 2 higher. That way that your shoulders are above where the bar stops. That will allow you to go all the way down and still have weight on the muscle. If that feels uncomfortable though, and it feels like it's causing you any type of pain, then don't do that. Do whatever feels comfortable. That is the priority. You want to make sure you're staying safe. But I do like getting a bit more of a stretch, so if you can go even below the shoulder line slightly, I think that would be a good thing. And here we are also using the wrist wraps. As you can see, I use them just as support, just to have a stronger base to push off of. They're not necessary, especially with a rep range of like 6 to 12, but they make my wrist feel more comfortable. When I was doing a lot of heavy movements with my wrists exposed, I started getting some wrist pain, and that's when I started implementing the wrist wraps. And since I started doing that, I haven't had that be an issue. So if you are experiencing any wrist pain, I would recommend trying the wrist wraps. Even if you're able to do the weight, it never hurts to add more stability and give yourself more support. Next, we're going to do some cable lateral raises for the side delt. Here, I like to set the cable slightly below where my hand level is when I'm letting my hand just rest by my side. You can see here it's slightly above where the cable's coming out of. That is what feels most comfortable for me, but somewhere around hand height when you're relaxed is typically the best. This isn't a heavy weight that I'm doing. I think I'm doing around 7.5 pounds. With this movement, that rule of 6 to 12 reps to failure, that is not as strict here. I feel like you could benefit from going with lower weight, higher reps, just because it allows you to maintain your form. A lot of people allow their form to suffer when they're doing these, especially when they go with heavier weight. So if you feel more comfortable in the 8 to 15 range, then maybe go for 8 to 15. But do a light enough weight where you can have good form the whole way through and you can really hit that side delt. It is a very small muscle, and it is very easy to let other parts of your arm take over. So that is something that I would do to help in that situation. Here we bump up the weight, if I remember correctly, and you'll see here my form isn't as good. It's okay, but we don't get as many reps either, which is also fine if the reps are good reps. But especially if you're learning the movement for the first, second, third time, I would recommend doing that lighter weight and really just going for a decent amount of reps and making sure that you're getting that movement down. What I would recommend as a mental cue is pushing your hand as far away from you as you can, trying to make the biggest arc with your hand while you're bringing the cable up. That is typically what I'm thinking about in my mind when I'm doing these. That helps me maintain proper form. And next up, we have some cable bicep curls. This movement, you can either do this on the bench, you can do this on a preacher curl. I like having a movement where I have the weight still on my bicep in the stretch position. If you imagine if we were doing this with dumbbells, as soon as our hands are parallel with our body and our hand is just pointing straight to the ground, gravity is pulling down. You know, it's not pulling anymore in your bicep, so there's no more work being done with your bicep. With the cable, since it's behind us, that weight stack is pulling backwards. So even when we reach even when our hands are fully extended at the bottom, we still have weight on our bicep there because the weight is pulling backwards, not straight down. But for these slow and controlled movements, especially with the eccentric, when you're letting that weight come down, you want to control it. You want to really feel that on your bicep. I would say shoot for anywhere between 6 to 12 reps with these. These are a pretty good movement. If you don't like how these feel, you can sit on a bench and have your bench on an incline, and then try to keep your arms slightly behind you and curl it that way. Or you can do it with a preacher curl. It's not the exact same movement, but you do still have weight on your biceps in the stretch position. When your arms are fully on the pad and they're fully extended, your arms will not be parallel with your body, straight to the ground. So you'll still have some weight on your biceps there as well. But this one, especially because you can focus single arm, this is definitely one of my more favored exercises for that type of stretch. So if you haven't tried these yet, I would definitely try them. And the reason I feel like implementing something with a good stretch is important is because I also do standing bicep curls, which is going to be our next movement. And like we were saying before, when your arms are fully down at your sides, the weight is going straight down. There's no force left in your bicep, no exertion from your bicep to keep those weights up. So I like to have something that targets the part of the exercise or the part of the muscle that I'm not hitting with the other exercise. So this is mainly to focus on the stretch. Now that we're looking at the bicep curls, like you see here, whenever my hand is resting, the hand that isn't being used, it's not doing anything. The biceps aren't doing anything in that movement. It's just my grip, just my hands holding on to it. But I'm not getting any type of tension in the stretch position. So that is why I like to make sure I mix it up. A helpful tip when you're doing this exercise, if you struggle with keeping proper form, is try to keep your elbows by your side. I do bring them out slightly when I turn the dumbbell, but that's just because the dumbbell's kind of big and I can't turn it without moving my arm there. But after you've moved your dumbbell so you can get it past your body, try to keep those elbows tucked by your side and try to not let your elbows move forward. When you're curling, you want your forearm to move, you want your hand to move, that's fine, but you want that elbow to stay tucked and in the same position. If that elbow comes forward, then it ends up going below your hand when you're bringing the weight up. And if your hand is stacked above your elbow, then the weight is no longer on your bicep, it's on your elbow. And you want the weight to hit your bicep or be on your bicep because this is a bicep movement. We're trying to target the biceps, trying to blow them up, and the only way you're going to do that is if you use proper form. And of course, like always, slow and controlled. Control that weight going up, control that weight going down. Do not swing it up. Don't just let it fall down quickly and then just try to swing it back up with the momentum. You see people in the gym doing that all the time, I'm sure. People do it at every gym. It is not the way to do that. Next up, we have some tricep work. We're doing some extensions with the cable attachment. You can use whatever attachment you like. I've used multiple different types of attachments over my time doing these. It kind of really just depends on what feels the best for me. For some reason, I get tricep discomfort in the lower part of my tricep going towards my elbow and also my elbow. So this one helps me because I kind of have more free range of motion here. It doesn't have to be a set path. When I do this with like a flat bar, when I'm pushing at the bottom, it doesn't feel natural. It kind of hurts me. So this movement can be done with a lot of different extensions. Try different attachments and just see which one works best for you. I do try to spread the cables at the bottom just to get a better contraction of my tricep. But again, name of the game is slow and controlled, full range of motion. Typically I would do an overhead extension, but I didn't on this day. I ended up doing dips. I just did one set of dips. I typically will do weighted dips, but I didn't remember to bring my weight belt. I have a belt that has a chain on it that you can put weights on and load the belt up, so when you're doing dips you can add weight to your dips. But dips are a good movement either way. If you're trying to really focus on your triceps, try to keep your chest up. Don't let it lean too far forward. If you're trying to target your chest more, then you can lean a bit more forward and bias the chest that way. Next up, we have some reverse grip pull downs for the triceps. I don't know how I feel about these. I saw these on a video recommendation. I think it was Hani Rambod, the coach for the Mr. Olympia, Chris Bumstead. He recommended that in one of his review videos that someone would do these types of exercises to help with the tricep. I don't know how I feel about them yet. I don't feel comfortable loading them heavy, and with the load that I was doing here, they felt a little bit too light. I think that's because of my grip strength. If you have the wrist straps, the ones that you can strap around a bar and have help you with your grip strength, that might make the move easier. So I would recommend trying that if you're suffering from the same situation that I am. But yeah, I don't know if I'm going to keep them in the program. I might try them a few more times just to see how they feel, if I can really reach a failure point with them. But until then, we'll have to withhold our judgment and our reviews for them. But yeah, this is just some posing work, finishing off the day with some posing. I always like to look and see if we get a good pump and also see what our progress looks like. So I would recommend doing the same, especially if you're on a cut or a bulk. Taking some progress photos, doing some poses, setting up your camera and recording is nice to have those mental notes when you're just looking at yourself, and then also the physical evidence that you are going through changes between the beginning of your cut, middle of your cut, end of your cut, or your bulk. It's just nice to know that you're making progress, because I know sometimes I look in the mirror and I don't recognize the progress that I've made, and that's just because when you're in the moment, it's kind of hard to do sometimes. So I would definitely recommend doing so. But yeah, thanks for watching the video. Hopefully this discomfort in my lower abdomen area, lower abdomen, upper leg area will disappear soon, go away, and we'll be good to go for legs. But took another rest day today just to give it some time to rest. I still went for my steps, got my 11K steps, so that's good. But that is all for today. Thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next one.